Hello, everybody. I'm Matthew,
I'm Whitney.
and together we are Matthew and Whitney. We might be corny, but we like to have fun. The video today is going to be about our personal backgrounds, our religious backgrounds, the struggles we've dealt with and are dealing with, our background together, our religious views, and our goals for this channel. So stick with us, and we'll be right back.
Walking in Grace with Matthew and Whitney.
All right, and we're back. We're going to start off with just discussing our personal backgrounds. We both come from different backgrounds, and this will just kind of give you an idea of where we started and where we're at and what we've been through. So, my background is my father was a Baptist preacher. His father was a Baptist preacher, and I grew up in the Baptist church, obviously. So all different denominations have little bits of different beliefs. I went to college for a year and a half at a Grace College in Indiana. Then I joined the Navy in 2005, was in the Navy for 13 and a half years, got out, moved from Florida to Kentucky, and then met my wife and moved to Illinois. I have always felt that there's something that I'm supposed to do as far as teaching people about God in one way or another. We had this channel a while back, and we have obviously switched over to this channel because our beliefs have changed. We still believe in God, still believe in Jesus, still believe in the resurrection, but there are just different things that our eyes have been open to that are not the same as what they were when we first met. We'll get more into that in a little bit. Again, I've always felt like I'm supposed to do something as far as ministry or witnessing or something, and I've got a decent technological background and knowledge, and the way the world is going, YouTube channels, Facebook channels, technology is the way the world's going, and we believe that this is the best way to get the word of God out, disseminated around the world, because everybody is using it. Everybody around the world is using it. So enough about me. Y'all are probably tired of hearing about me. Let's turn it over to my beautiful wife, Whitney.
My dad comes from a very religious background. His mom is Nazarene, still is Nazarene. Her mom was Nazarene. He grew up Nazarene, and he married his current wife. He's been divorced, but he's married his current wife now, and this is kind of how it all came together. She kind of opened our eyes as to how to read the Bible, and that came from her side of things. So I did not grow up in church. I was very small. My mom does not have a religious background like my dad does. Her family was Jehovah's Witnesses on her mom's side, and my grandpa, her dad, didn't believe in God. So not much religious background on my mom's side. So she met my dad, then went to the Nazarene church when she was, I don't know, an older teen or young 20s maybe. And so I was in the church for just a couple of years before they stopped going. And so we didn't grow up in church. I have 2 siblings. And I kind of found Christianity when I was in college. Well, I guess I went to a couple church camps as a kid, like in 5th and 6th grade. But I kind of found it on my own through work, people that I worked with. So I was in my college years when I found that, and from my early 20s until my early 30s, I was in just a typical, I've been kind of tossed around in different churches and had some friends that I did Bible studies with and whatnot. Was baptized twice. I was baptized when I was in 7th grade, I think, and then re-baptized because I felt like I had to rededicate myself to God. So I was in my college years, I think, when I was re-baptized, and then in my early 30s, my stepmom kind of had a conversation with me that changed things around. I still didn't really go towards that, but I was like, oh yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Like, the first time I heard it, I was like, okay, well, you obviously have something here that makes sense, and I get it. But I never studied it out. I never really went and dove into it. I was just like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I believe that. And then just kind of coasted, didn't do much with religion. Then I met him. I was very attracted to him.
Yeah, we can just leave it there.
I was very attracted that he was a Christian and believed in the same things that I did, and so I was like, okay, I gotta marry this guy. That was huge for me. So then we kind of evolved, as he said, and studied together, and we took a little bit of a different path. Still believe in the exact same God and the exact same Jesus and the exact same resurrection. All that stuff is the same. Just how we read the Bible is different. What else? Did I cover everything you wanted me to cover?
Did you cover everything you wanted to cover?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, if not, then people can ask questions, and we'll answer them whenever we get them.
Okay.
All right. So moving on from there, we're going to talk about the struggles that we've dealt with and are dealing with. Us personally, not necessarily together. We'll talk about struggles that we deal with together next. So struggles I deal with, as I said, I was in the military for 13 years. I have some PTSD, some anxiety, some depression. Suicide has gone through my head. I'm obviously not proud of that, but I want to make it known because it happens. Everybody goes through their own struggles. Things happen in your life, and it's hard, and sometimes you get in a bad place mentally, and it's not something that anybody's proud of. People do go through it, and we need to recognize that, and we need to be there for each other. But God's gonna bring us out of that if we rely on Him. I'm on daily medication as well as prayer and doing our studies, and life is not easy right now for anybody, and if it is, then you're probably not seeing the real world. And that's another part of why we're doing this, is because we see where the world is, and we see where the world is going, and it's severely depressing. It's embarrassing when you're a true believer and you see where the world's at and what is accepted, and
blindly follow.
And we both have kids, and we know what our kids are gonna have to deal. We don't know what our kids are gonna have to deal with, because looking at where the world was at when we were kids to where we're at now, I'm only 40, and the changes in the world in that amount of time is unreal. And just in the last 15 years, it's mind-blowing. And the fact that our kids are going to have to grow up in this, and worse. We've got to get God back into our kids' lives and into the adults' lives, and anybody that's going to listen.
Yeah, and you have to be willing to listen. That's the number one thing. We're not gonna reach anybody that doesn't want to be reached, which is the majority of people, unfortunately, because it's comfortable to stay in your bubble and think you know everything and not branch out and learn. You have to have an open mind to everything, which is something that we've been talking about lately, is us finding the truth about how to read the Bible has opened our eyes to so much more outside of just religion. We're kind of finding these other things in society that are hidden and covered up, and we're like, wow, we didn't even, like, we question everything now.
Yeah.
Because so many preachers are teaching the wrong thing. And if the majority of the Christianity religion as a whole is being taught wrong, and people just blindly follow and don't actually study it for themselves and take the Bible literally, I just it's so hard for me to see how ignorant, and I don't say that in a derogatory way, but literally the definition of ignorant is not knowing, how ignorant I was and just blindly followed and took what people said on Sunday and didn't go home and study a word of the Bible.
What are some of the struggles that you
That
get?
is one of my big struggles. So I guess that was kind of my intro to my struggles.
my bad.
I have a very strong passion for that, as you can see. It's just something that is hard for me to deal with on a daily basis, because I do think about it all the time, of how many people are lost because you don't want to learn and you think you know everything. So that's been one of my struggles. And honestly, I don't mean this in a bad way, but it was one of your problems too. He was so stubborn in the beginning,
Yeah.
and it took a year for us to get where we're at now. For him to, he saw it, but he didn't want to see it. He knew that it was the truth, but he was like, no, I know what I know. You're not going to tell me that. I've read the Bible much more than you have, and I've been a Christian longer than you have. You're not going to tell me something I don't know. And he'll admit that's what,
Yeah.
that he said that before.
So I guess that would kind of be a good segue into essentially talking about our views and our goals. We can kind of lump that into one topic here. When you watch our videos, keep an open mind. Don't shut off just because we're going to tell you something that you haven't heard before. I can tell you that's how I was, as Whitney was telling you. I grew up, as I said, with my dad as a preacher, so obviously my dad knew everything about the Bible, about God, how to read it, and everything.
He went to seminary school.
He did.
Like,
Yep.
how can he not know everything?
Right. However, he preached just like all the other preachers. You pick a verse out of the Bible, and you use that
Apply
to
to
prove whatever point you're trying to prove. I'm not saying he did it on purpose. There is not a single thought in his head that he was doing anything wrong. And that's fine, to an extent, because at the end of the day, he's preaching the wrong thing. So we're here to preach, well, not really preach, but discuss reading the Bible the correct way and knowing the truth. As you can see behind us, we've got the dispensation of grace that we're living in.
Which is the
Here.
part, yep.
I don't remember all the names of everything, but basically
Kingdom gospel.
this is where Israel was living by the law, which is the Hebrew law. And I'm not Jewish, which means that never applied to me. I'm what they call in the Bible a Gentile, which they weren't even allowed to.
Jesus did not acknowledge Gentiles.
Yeah, the Gentiles were
He turned them away. Heathen
what-
dogs.
heathen dogs in the Bible, and that was from the word of Jesus. Like, he called Gentiles heathen dogs. When Paul came, was Saul. Saul was the last one to
audibly hear
Jesus talking.
and saw the white light.
And he was given the gospel for the Gentiles. If you go back and read Acts 9, Ananias was told by God to go see Saul because Saul has the new gospel. It literally says that in the Bible.
But people will fight
That's
that
the new
till their
gospel.
death.
So Saul, who's now Paul, is meeting with the apostles that are left, mainly Peter, And Peter and Paul are discussing the law and the new gospel, and Peter eventually agrees with Paul that there is a new gospel. And so he goes and talks to the Jews about the new gospel. Paul goes and talks to the Gentiles about the new gospel, which now includes the Gentiles, and heaven is no longer just for Jews.
And it did not include Gentiles before.
Yeah, before
This is a new-
Gentiles weren't allowed to go to heaven unless they converted to being Jews. And I don't remember the name for that, but
You had to seek out a Jew, go through the process to become a Jew, and
Right.
then you could be saved
yeah.
by following the law.
So if you start at Acts and just read, it's gonna blow your mind.
But you have to be in the King James Version.
Yes, King James is key because King James is the oldest version and the most accurate version.
And the most sold version of the Bible, which tells you something. It blows every other version out of the water as far as sales.
There are so many things, and we've only touched on the differences between the King James version and every other version out there, and there are so many key differences in those Bibles. It's
You can't look at the version comparisons and say, well, this is the correct word of God. Whenever it takes out, adds, removes, changes words, it does not make sense.
yeah.
It just doesn't.
Those are our views. Our goals are to disseminate the correct word of God, to teach you how to read it, to help everybody understand. We're going to be doing live studies. We're going to do recorded studies. We're going to try and get people in so that we can interview them and get other perspectives and views and thoughts. And we've got a lot planned for this channel. So please come back. Please check us out. Forward videos, share videos. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to learn a lot. And we just hope that God blesses all of this, because that's ultimately what this is all about. We're going to end on a quote that Whitney's son Jackson had on a piece of paper. I don't know where he got it. I don't know if he made it up. I changed one word. Life is a one-time offer. Use it wisely. Love y'all. God bless you. We'll see you on the next one.